We are happy to welcome back to the studio Mike Lake, who is the Member of Parliament for Edmonton, Millwoods, Beaumont. And Mike has a couple of family friends with him today, let's say that. Jayden, we had you here a couple of years ago. We're happy to see you again. And this time we are joined by your sister Janae, who visited us last time but didn't actually come onto the set last time. So you have screwed up all your courage and you're now going to join us for this interview, right? So far, so good. We're here to talk about autism today. And Mike, I want to start by just playing a clip of you in the House of Commons doing what I have to say you do really, really well, and that is focus people's attention on autism in a way that really hits the heart. Roll tape, please.
Tomorrow is the 3rd World Autism Awareness Day, and 12 years ago today, my son Jayden was diagnosed with autism. For the last 2 years on this day, I've shared Jayden's story, but this time I want to focus on his 10-year-old sister, Janae. As with many siblings of people with autism, our family's attention often seems to be on someone else, and yet Janae never complains. She sees the good in her brother, often pointing out, for example, that Jayden never fights with her like her friends' brothers do. When she was 5, she described their relationship this way: "I'm Jayden's little sister, but sometimes I'm like his big sister." She's Jayden's guardian, his helper, his teacher, and his friend. Janae's name is Hebrew for God has replied. And there are countless others all across this country just like her. People like Josh Bortolotti, Jeanette Holden, and the member from Sydney, Victoria. They are answers to prayers, both spoken and unspoken. And we thank God for them today on behalf of those who may not be able to say it themselves.
I have been in Parliament, that was 3 years ago. I've been in Parliament on another occasion when you've given that speech, and I don't know if you know it because it's so noisy down there on the floor, but there's not a dry eye in the House when you make that speech. It's really something. Let's not assume everybody knows what we're talking about here, Mike. So let's start with you and tell us, what is autism? Tell us.
Sure. Well, autism affects about 1 in 88 people, they're saying now, kids that are born. I can explain a little bit more about it in terms of Jayden's situation. When Jayden was about 2-ish, we started to notice that he wasn't really paying a lot of attention to us when we would call him. And he was very, very focused on things like pots and pans, which lots of 2-year-olds are focused on, but to the point where he wouldn't even look up from playing with them if you called his name, or look up from the TV if you called his name, or look up from anything he was doing. Was just so focused on those things. And when he did come to us, usually it was to get something. It wasn't because he wanted to see us necessarily, or even wanted us to interact with him. It was usually to grab us and pull us somewhere to get something. When he would look at us, he would never look at us right in the eye. It would always be kind of looking around our faces as we were kind of trying to interact with them. And so really that difficulty socially interacting. And so throughout the range of autism, you'll see that be sort of a core feature for a lot of people. And then you'll see different reactions, different response to stimulus. Just the world around people with autism is very different than it is for your eye. The way they hear things can be overwhelming. All of the sounds that you hear, maybe the way you see things visually can be overwhelming to them. And then they respond in different ways.
And you diagnosed it at 2?
He was diagnosed officially at 2.5. We actually knew at the time he was 2 because of a book that we read, but it was 2.5 before he got the official diagnosis from the Glenrose Hospital. It took us 6 months to get to that diagnosis stage.
And how old is he now?
He's now almost 17 and a half. He turns 18 in November.
17 and a half.
Coming up on 18.
So this has been something you and your family have lived with for a very long time now.
Right. And every stage is different in his life. When he was young, we had to get through the difficulties that I was talking about, and really just train him just to pay attention, make some eye contact with us, just connect with us in any way. Now he's very, very connected with us at this stage. So we're looking at different things like, what do we do? What does he do vocationally or transitionally as we move forward?
Autism, I guess, appears on a spectrum or on a continuum. And there are some people, you'll help me with the right nomenclature here, but I guess high functioning, low functioning. Where is your son on that?
And it's a really good question. And it's not a black and white thing. It's not exactly a spectrum where you can just peg someone directly on it by one objective standard. In Jayden's case, for example, Jayden doesn't talk. He's nonverbal. His IQ level would test fairly low. So in some ways, he would be considered low functioning. But his connection level to people is very, very high. He really is, he's really a happy kid. He loves to spend time with his family, loves to spend time actually with people in general, and really does get connected to them. And from that standpoint, he's heck, he's higher functioning than most of us probably in that regard.
I remember last time he was here, he touched your face a lot.
Yeah,
When he does that, what is he trying to convey?
Well, he doesn't communicate verbally, so everything is nonverbal. So he'll make sounds that he knows how to make. Sometimes he'll grab us to try and get us to talk about things he wants to talk about. It's kind of interesting actually because from time to time, if he sees something he really wants, or if he forgets something at home, which is kind of interesting, it's a concern that he can't articulate those things. But from time to time, you'll be backing out of the driveway, and suddenly you'll hear him go, ba 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 ba. It's sort of his way of communicating, but very urgently, or ah. He just
so he knows he's forgotten something.
And it tells you that something's wrong anyway, and we got to figure out what it is. Oftentimes, it's his iPod or something like that. But if I start talking about things like the things that he likes, like travel. If I was to go through our schedule right now and tell him, Jayden, do you know what we're doing? Do you know what we're doing this week? We're going to. Are we going to Ottawa tomorrow? We're going to do some interviews here in Toronto, right? And then tomorrow we're going to go to Ottawa, right? And then after that, where are we going? Are we coming back to Toronto and then going to New York? Is that what we're going to do? Is that going to be fun? And we're looking forward to flying on the airplane? Yeah. So he likes to know what the schedule is.
He understands you, obviously.
He does. He totally understands, and that's actually funny. He loves maps, so he'll look at the map, and he's got a little dot on the map everywhere we've been in North America in his bedroom. And so, as I'm talking about maps, you've been to all sorts of places, haven't you? And so, we've got little dots on his map everywhere he's been, and if we point out a city that he knows about and ask him to point it out on the map, he doesn't even have to think about it. He knows exactly where it is.
Okay, Janae, you ready? Okay. What's it like having a brother with autism?
Well, there's definitely positives, and there's also challenges to having a brother with autism. Some of the positives are like some of my friends, they have older brothers who obviously don't have autism, and they're like embarrassed to be around their little sisters and stuff like that. But Jayden, he's never like embarrassed to be seen with me, and if we're walking into like a public place or something, he'll just grab my hand and walk next to me and stuff. But then there's also like challenges and stuff too. So like sometimes I'll be babysitting him and I'll give him a word search puzzle or something and sit him at the table. Then I'll sit on the couch next to him and I'll get playing on like my iPod or something or watching a show. And then I'll realize like an hour later or something that I didn't tell him to switch activities. And Jayden needs to be prompted to like switch activities and stuff like that. So then he'll either still be doing the same activity, or if he has like markers to do his word searches or something, a couple times he's colored his entire arm and hand, and then I'm like, whoops.
And when mom and dad come home and have discovered this, is there trouble for the sister?
Not tons. They're just like, did you tell him to switch stuff? And I'm like, I might have.
Let's just say things like that have happened to us too.
Okay.
So I think we've all at times discovered Jayden has decided to do some body art on himself with his felt.
Now, Janae, he's 17 and a half, and you are?
I'm 13.
You're 13.
A half-ish or more. I don't know.
Almost 14.
Almost 14.
Do you two go to the same school?
Yes.
You do? Mm-hmm. I want to know about your friends, or perhaps even better, the people who aren't your friends. Do you get teased because of him? Does he get teased because of him?
No, the people at our school are actually really great. They just treat Jayden like he's any other kind of person and stuff. I don't think he's ever really gotten teased by his classmates or his friends or anything.
Because I'm told kids are, well, I'm not told. I know kids are cruel.
Yeah.
They can be, right?
They can be.
You haven't had any difficulty with this?
I haven't really had any difficulty with it. Most of my friends are pretty understanding, and his friends are pretty understanding.
Now, I notice you're wearing that pin, which is the puzzle piece. What's that supposed to signify?
Well, I think it signifies that autism is kind of like a puzzle, and they keep on finding little pieces about it, and they haven't exactly solved the whole puzzle to autism yet. So, yeah.
So you work on finding how the pieces of the puzzle work out. I'm going to ask you a really hard question here, okay?
Okay.
I know you can handle it, which is why I'm giving you the heads up on it ahead of time. Do you ever sometimes wish that your brother was quote-unquote normal, like every other kid?
Well, honestly, since Jayden was diagnosed with autism before I was born, I don't exactly know what a normal brother is like. So Jaden kind of is my normal, like having autism and stuff. So I don't really wish that he was normal or anything.
You like him the way he is?
If he was like, if he didn't have autism anymore, or it was like cured or something, he wouldn't be the same as like Jaden was now.
That's good. I couldn't have said that better myself.
I'm verklempt here myself, I must say.
Wow.
Mike, I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that your son requires a lot more immediate attention from you and your wife than your daughter does. And I want to know from your standpoint, how does that make parenting her, not him, her, challenging?
That's an interesting question. Actually, I think in some ways it makes it easier, as strange as that might be to say. I mean, you've kind of asked her some questions here, and she's given some answers that, to me, seem beyond 13. And I think a lot of that is because of the experience that she's had growing up with Jaden. We see it actually with the kids in the school as well. It seems surprising that, you might hear that Jaden doesn't get picked on a lot at school. But it's partly because he's in a kindergarten to grade 12 school, and the kids that are with him, he's in a regular grade 11 classroom now, they've grown up with him. And so they've known him right from the start. It's all they've known. And so for him, or for them, it doesn't really seem that different to them. And when a new child comes into the class, a new kid comes into the class, all the other kids, they would never let Jaden get picked on, so they all know him. And I think for Janae, it's as she says, it's sort of all she's known growing up, and she really has been fantastic. Now, I would say that certainly there are conversations that we have with Janae that are a little bit different than parents would have with kids, as they grow towards 13 years old.
Like
for
what?
example, one day we're not going to be around, and it's going to be her and Jaden, right? Because kids with autism live the same life expectancy that anybody else lives. And so there's a conversation that we've had from time to time, gently, that says, you understand that you're one day going to be his only family member, in a sense. And she totally gets it, actually, amazingly understands that sort of the responsibility that comes with that.
Janae, do you get what that means?
Yeah, sort of. Like, I know he'll have other family members and stuff too, but I'll probably be one of his closest family members and stuff, and if my parents aren't around and he needs someone to take care of them, then that might kind of end up being somewhat my responsibility in some ways, but probably won't be fully or anything.
We have nieces and nephews. He has nieces and nephews that are pretty close as well, an extended family, and so.
And not for a long time, we hope, right?
Yeah.
Not for a long time. Janae, I wanted to follow up on something that I just asked your dad as well, which is every kid wants his or her appropriate share of attention from his or her mom or dad. And my hunch is, because of your brother's needs, you don't get a lot of attention, or as much as other kids who only have one sibling get. Is that true?
At home, I'd probably say I do get a fair amount of attention. Honestly, in public, I'm kind of good with Jaden taking the attention away from me in some ways, because I'm not a super talkative person or anything.
You are a bit shy, aren't you?
If the attention's taken away from me to focus on Jaden, I'm just kind of like, okay, good. I don't have to talk to quite as many people.
But usually in a situation like this, where it's older brother, younger daughter, where the daughter is, if I can put it this way, the baby of the family, she wants mommy and daddy's attention as much as she possibly can. Are you like that?
Yeah, I definitely say I'm somewhat like that, but I do get a lot of attention as well as Jaden. I think it's evenly balanced between the two of us.
I don't know how that can be true, because number one, your dad's a member of parliament, which means he's in Ottawa, a lot of the time and not at home, right? So when he's home, he's not home that much, and he's got to give his attention, presumably, to the job and to your brother. Isn't that the case?
Well, not totally, because of course my mom's home too, and she's good with, helping watch Jaden and stuff like that too, and yeah, so I'd still probably, of course there's some times when Jaden needs more attention than me, and there's some times when I need more attention than him, but it just kind of varies on what's going on exactly.
Janae's really, she's really kind of found her own niche too in things that she's interested in. I'll tell a story about hockey, which is kind of funny. Of course, I'm a hockey guy. I used to work for the Oilers, and I've played hockey all my life. And so I always thought I would have kids that played hockey. And so Jayden played hockey for a couple of years. The league actually accommodated him and let me go out on the ice with him in initiation. I would kind of direct him around and point out where the puck is and those kind of things, because he just wanted to skate in circles and look up at the lights. That was his thing. He loved to go out and get dressed up in the equipment and skate around in circles, but didn't have quite the concept of chasing the puck. Anyway, the second year that he played, he would have been about 7 because she was 4. We decided to get her involved in it as well. And so we would get both kids dressed up and go out to the rink and play. And she was the smallest one on the ice, and Jayden was probably the biggest one at the time. And of course, I kind of stretched my authority to go out on the ice with him, and went out on the ice with her when she was out there. Anyways, I was very excited about this. Of course, both my kids were taking on my love of hockey. And the last game that we went out and played, I was on the bench with Janae. She was having a really good time. She had a big smile on her face, and Debbie looked down from the crowd and made a comment about it. And Janae looked up at Mom and says, "Guess what, Mommy? Daddy says I don't have to play hockey next year." So that burst my bubble. So her niche is she's in baton. She loves to do baton. She's grade 6 piano now, right?
Yep.
Taking your grade 6 piano.
Good
and
stuff.
in theory, of course, in piano, plays the oboe in the school band, and is also in choir this year. She took on choir this year. So
Do you skate, Janae?
I am not a great skater. I definitely not really hockey. I think that experience when I was 4 kind of turned me off of hockey.
She was the only girl.
I was the only girl on my entire
Oh.
team. That was not fun.
Dad, what were you thinking?
Well, and
Dad.
yeah, I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But it was fun getting out with them at that time anyway. But
Good.
yeah.
Let's finish up on this. There are all sorts of advances happening right now in medical science, and I wonder what you think is possible right now in terms of autism development. And you don't talk about a cure, do you? What do you talk about?
Well, yeah, that's interesting talking about a cure. There's some of the best researchers in the world are right here in Canada. There's amazing research going on. At Stephen Shearer right here in Toronto, working out of sick kids.
We've had him on this program several times.
Lonnie's Wagon Mom. There are numerous fantastic researchers across this country. I think that when you think about Jayden, for example, and Janae touched on this earlier, we can't imagine Jayden without autism. Can we imagine addressing some of the issues Jayden faces? Absolutely. There are certain things that are challenges. Would I love to hear what Jayden has to say if he could communicate? Absolutely. But would I want to lose everything about Jayden that's so unique? I wouldn't want to lose it all. And so certainly as that research progresses, the genetic research, the research on therapies and ways to deal with it, certainly it's going to make life better for people with autism, families dealing with autism. It'll create opportunities, better opportunities for adults with autism to work and be understood and to be trained to work and contribute. So certainly there are lots and lots of opportunities out there, and we're right on the cusp of those opportunities.
But are those medical developments focused on understanding why autism happens so that we can avoid having it happen ever again?
Well, certainly the work Dr. Shearer is doing at the genetic level is very much focused on that, and then we can figure out ways to treat it at the genetic level. Of course, Dr. Shearer would be better to speak to the technical expertise there, but certainly he's made some phenomenal strides in that direction.
But do you know why Jayden was born with autism?
You know what? That's a really good question. I don't know everything about why Jayden was born with autism, but I would say that I'm pretty confident that there's a genetic component to it. You see 5 times more boys, for example, than girls have it. One thing that when you talk to other dads, particularly of children with autism, they'll tell you, as I've discovered, that you learn a lot about yourself too, and some of the things that were sort of idiosyncrasies for you as you were growing up. You kind of see them thrown way out of whack with our kids and our sons, and so particularly. And so there's no question in my mind that there's a genetic component to it. But I'll leave it to the experts to actually find out what that is. And thankfully, we have some real phenomenal people working on it here in Canada.
Janae, last question for you. What do you think is the most important thing the rest of us need to know about being the sibling of someone with autism?
Well, I guess being a sibling of someone with autism, I guess it's focused around kind of making sure that I guess being the sibling of someone with autism, it actually is more focused around making sure that your sibling is always like okay and stuff, and that, you know, you're there for them whenever they need anything, and yeah, that type of thing.
Every time I've been with you, you've been in a really good mood. Are you always in a good mood?
Not always,
Not
but
always?
yeah.
You seem like a very happy kid.
I am a happy kid, definitely.
So you don't let the tough stuff get you down?
No, there's good stuff that kind of erases the tough stuff. There's more good stuff than bad.
Nice job to Mike and Deb. Yeah, you've got a couple of really special kids there. That's great.
That's great.
Mike Lake, Edmonton MP, along with Jaden and Janae. It's really good of you guys to come visit us here at TVO again. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.